Evening. Thank you for joining us. For those of you in the audience who've not attended one of these hearings recently, allow me to review our normal procedure. When each item comes up, staff will introduce each item for consideration. If you are not the applicant and you would like to speak in support or against the item, please fill out one of the forms that are out in the lobby, indicate whether you're for or against it, and write the item number on it. Once you have filled it out, if you could please give it to the clerk to my left there, please. The applicant and then the applicant supporters will be heard first. Anyone in opposition will be heard next, and the applicant has an opportunity for rebuttal should the applicant so wish. Comments should be restricted to just the pertinent information regarding the agenda item under discussion. We don't get into personal disputes or neighborhood spats or anything like that. If you're an individual, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. If you represent a group, you will have 6 minutes to speak. And as we start moving down the agenda, if you could kind of start moving closer to the microphone, just so we can move along efficiently. When it is your turn to speak, please identify yourself clearly by name and by stating your address. Each speaker should be given respectful and courteous attention, and be aware that the board may ask questions of anybody who comes before us. Information that you share, pictures, site plans, letters, anything like that, will stay with the clerk as part of the record. Anything you share that might be on a digital device, we'll need you to share a copy of that with us. That needs to go into the record as well. Once all of that has happened, I'll ask the board for a motion. Once a motion has been made and seconded, discussion will be closed to the floor. Following board discussion, a vote will be taken. During voting, board members who do not cast objecting votes are considered to have voted in support of the motion. Any person who's aggrieved by any decision of this board may, within 15 days, file an appeal to the Board of County Commissioners, and our staff can help you with that process. Having said that, let's begin. Number one.
Good evening. For the record, Angie Gates with Development Services, Planning and Development. Item number one is a request for a lot size variance from 1 acre to 36,000 square feet for a single-family dwelling in the A1 Agricultural District located on Lot 16D on Mary Drive. This is a legal parcel of record that was created prior to Seminole County's subdivision regulations being adopted. The future single-family dwelling will be approximately 2,400 square feet and will meet all of the minimum A1 zone, setback requirements. There have not been any prior variances for the subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions for staff? Seeing none, is the applicant here?
Yes.
Come on up. Or I should say, only if you want to, if you have anything you'd like to add to what staff had said.
There's a house next to the lot, which is the previous lot owner that we purchased from, and she has a house on the same exact size lot. I believe that these were 1 acre parcels until Lot J got implemented a few years back for permanent right-of-way easement to the other parcels in that area. So it is basically an acre.
Gotcha. Any questions, gentlemen?
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
if she is speaking, then if you can get the name and her address, please.
Thank you for
Oh.
reminding me. Yes, your name and address, please.
Shannon Mejia at 132 Buck Court, Castleberry, Florida.
Excellent. Any other questions? All right, thank you, ma'am. Easy enough. Is anyone in the audience to speak in support of the application? Anyone in the audience to speak in opposition? Seeing none, your pleasure, gentlemen.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Second from the judge. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Enjoy.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Number 2.
Item number 2 is a request for a rear yard setback variance from 30 feet to 20.5 feet for a garage addition in the R1AA Single Family Dwelling District located at 110 Cherry Hill Circle in the Brantley Hall Estates subdivision. The proposed garage addition will be 792 square feet and will encroach 9.5 feet into the required rear yard setback. The Brantley Harbor Homeowners Association approved the proposed garage addition. 2 letters of support were submitted by, one was submitted by the directly affected neighbor to the west and the neighbor directly to the east. And there have not been any prior variances for the subject property. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Is there anything you'd like to add to what staff said? Do y'all have any questions for the applicant? All right. Anyone in the audience to speak in support of this? Is there anyone in the audience to speak in opposition? All right. Seeing none. Your pleasure.
Mr. Chair,
Sir,
move to approve.
motion approved. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Enjoy.
Item number 3 is a request for a rear yard setback variance from 30 feet to 21.5 feet for an addition in the R1 Single Family Dwelling District located at 391 Whitcomb Drive in the Lake Harney Manor subdivision. The existing residence was built in 1973 and is a legal non-conforming structure. The proposed 2-story addition will be approximately 670 square feet and will encroach 8.5 feet into the required rear yard setback. The first floor part of the addition will be an open carport. The second floor of the addition will be comprised of the space that the owners lost during Hurricane Ian, essentially converting the portion of the home into a stilt home to prevent future flooding. There have not been any prior variances for this subject property, and this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions for staff? Yes, sir.
Actually, I have one, Chair. So I guess, staff found for denial, right? But this is in conjunction with the Seminole County Emergency Management for mitigation, right?
I don't know. I can't answer that.
We can ask the applicant that when we
Okay,
get to there.
all right.
Any other questions for staff? All right. Sir, are you the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Please, come on up. If you give us your name and address, please.
Jesse Durham at 391 Wickham. I'm the owner of the property here with my wife, Jamie Durham. We, just to add some flavor, I brought some photos of the flooding as well as a sample of the floor plan and site plan of the addition. We're not looking to really net add any square footage to our home. We suffered from a pretty severe loss during Hurricane Ian. Water was approximately 4 to 5 foot in our home for over 3 months, and really just looking to add resiliency to our home and have a safe spot for our family to live.
Man, I'm so sorry you guys went through that. Any questions? Yeah, Mr. Evans, you had your question?
So coming before this board, you've already worked with Seminole County Emergency Management, I assume gotten grant money for the mitigation on this, things like that?
Yes, sir.
So this is really just the permit to get the final process moving?
Yes, sir. Well,
Okay.
it's been approved currently by Seminole County. It's with the state along with the rest of the hurricane
Okay.
gain losses and is in the process of transferring to federal approval. But yes, sir.
Okay, that's it for me.
I know the property well.
Yeah, those Lake Harney folks just got shellacked.
Yes.
And any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in support? Yes, sir, come on down. And if you'd give us your name and address, please.
Rodolfo Madlang. I'm at 385 Whitcomb Drive. I am the property owner immediately south, 391. The Durhams are my neighbors. I've lived in Geneva for 4 years and have had the pleasure of living next to the Durhams. I think just there's two pieces that I wanted to address here, and the first is that as a practical consideration, the additions or the approval of the setback that they are requesting, the variance doesn't, their construction work will not have any, they will not impede my view or enjoyment of my waterfront. I believe that there, to the immediate north, the lot is basically abandoned. But I think that the more qualitative consideration that I'd like to speak to is that Jamie and Jesse have been really exemplary neighbors. I think they've been great citizens of Seminole County. You know, when the hurricane hit us, it was really difficult to deal with. We were kayaking through a half mile of water just to get to our homes to try to protect them. And it was a historic flood. And then yet, in spite of all that, you know, they haven't invested a lot of money into their property, but they talked about that first floor that had been remodeled, and I saw them toiling for 2 years to make that a livable space. It was a garage that they converted into a living space and basically in their basement. That was completely wiped out. I think you saw in those photos, that was about 3 feet of water right over, you know, right up to their kitchen vanity, or their bathroom vanity. And this variance that they're asking for is, you know, a reinvestment into their property, into Seminole County, and I would sure love for them to continue to be our neighbors. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for this gentleman? Thank you, sir. Anyone else to speak in support? Anyone in the audience to speak in opposition? Seeing none, your pleasure, gentlemen.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second? We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Best of luck. Best of luck. Stay dry. All right. No, next, please.
Sorry. Item number 4 is a request for 1, a rear yard setback variance from 10 feet to 7 feet, and 2, a side yard north setback variance from 7.5 feet to 4.5 feet for a shed in the R1 Single Family Dwelling District located at 5118 Cypress Court in the Renwood Heights subdivision. The proposed shed will be 100 square feet and will encroach 3 feet into the required rear yard setback and 3 feet into the required side yard north setback. There have not been any prior variances or building permits found for the previous shed, and this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions for staff? Is the applicant here? Is there anything you'd like to add to what staff had said, sir? Do you all have any questions for the applicant?
I have a question.
If you could come down, please, sir.
There-
Just, if you'll give us your name and address, please, and Judge
Sure,
Bravo has a
Malone,
question.
5118 Cypress Court, Winter Park, Florida.
Thank you, sir. Your Honor?
Okay, there is some discussion about the tree and the roots and so forth, but you're not planning on putting the shed by the tree, is that correct?
Correct, yeah. The reason that was brought up was as to why where I'm trying to put it at is really the only spot for it to go, because in the opposite corner, there's a large tree that would prevent me from putting it
So
anywhere
it's at
else.
the other end of the lot where it's all just yard.
Technically, there's two different large trees. So,
It didn't show in the picture, I don't think.
I
Well,
think,
there's a picture with some
so the,
wood that
correct.
kind of frames that. Is it?
That's the proposed shed location, correct.
Okay, no, nothing further.
Sir, while you're with us, have you chatted with your neighbors about this?
No, I haven't.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir. Anyone here to speak in support? Anyone here to speak in opposition? All right, seeing none, gentlemen?
Second.
Motion approved in a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, it passes. Enjoy. Next, please.
Good evening. For the record, Hillary Payton, Planning and Development. Item number 5 is 2 variance requests for 1200 North Street located in the San Lando Springs subdivision. The request is for an east side street setback variance from 25 feet to 7.8 feet and a north side yard setback variance from 10 feet to 6 feet 9.5 inches for a shed in the R1AA zoning district. The subject property is a corner lot and has 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces North Street. The Marla Avenue side is where the variance is being sought. The request is to construct a 16 by 16 shed, 17.2 feet into the east side street setback and approximately 3.2 feet into the north side yard setback. A letter of support has been received from the directly affected neighbor. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Gentlemen, do you have any questions for staff? I have one, Ms. Payton.
Sure.
This shed's, they're proposing to build it within the existing fence.
Correct.
Do we know whether or not that fence was lawfully erected?
Yes, they have a variance that they received in 2003 for that fence.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Is the applicant here? Would you like to add to anything staff had said? All right. Do you have any questions, gentlemen, for the applicant? All right. Anyone else in the audience to speak in support? Is there anyone in the audience to speak in opposition? Seeing none?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, there you go. You have your shed. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Gotta have a shed.
Wish I had a shed. What's next?
Item number 6 is 2 variance requests for Lot 1 on Tangerine Avenue located in the Pine Level subdivision. The request is for both side yard setback reduction from 7.5 feet to 5 feet for a single-family dwelling in the R1 zoning district. The request is to construct a single-family dwelling no larger than 29.97 feet wide by 45 feet deep, 2.5 feet into the north and south side yard setbacks. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Now, is this, do we know, is this a legal parcel of record for, it is prior to the LDC?
Yes.
Cool, thank you. Any questions for staff?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So because, as you said, it was a
Legal
legal,
parcel of record.
so there is no, the requirement for minimum lot size for a single-family development doesn't apply in this case?
That's correct. Only for setbacks.
All right. And what about, is there an administrative waiver required for a minimum dwelling size? Because the proposed house that they mean to put on here is,
They would be required to meet the minimum house size
okay, I
at the time of
don't
building
think
permitting.
they meet that, based on the plan they submitted.
If it's 2-story,
Then it would. Is it two-story?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I
But
guess we'll
that
have
would
to
be
ask.
something-
To be fair, that issue's not before us, though.
Right. That's
Yeah.
something that would be reviewed at the time of building permitting.
Okay.
I was just to say, if it's okay to go, then we go. If not, then everything else still has to fall in place for them.
All right.
Any other questions for staff? Is the applicant here? There you are. Would you like to share with us, sir, anything? Do you have any questions for the applicant? You can still, even though it's not at issue, you can ask your question if you want. Or-
Well, if it's for our consideration moot, then I don't need to ask.
All right. Anyone here to speak, excuse me, in support of this application? Anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, your pleasure.
Actually, I have one question for
Oh,
staff.
yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
For the applicant?
For the staff.
For staff, okay.
So the north side parcel, I was actually on the MLS earlier, and it didn't show who owns it. I assume it's like a Seminole County Conservation that then goes down the east side of the property. It was totally grayed out, like I couldn't click who.
You mean that kind of landlocked
Yeah.
lot?
The one just north of the parcel we're looking at on the screen.
Hmm.
And then it looks like it goes down the line and then behind the property and all the way down, almost like a swale for runoff. Is that owned by the county?
I believe that property is in the city of Sanford.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I didn't look, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, my only concern, I guess, is that by allowing a 5-foot And that property there, I mean, I think it becomes incredibly difficult to build. But again, it was grayed out on my MLS, so I really don't know who owns that or if it's even subject to be built.
Kathy
know.
can probably look it up.
It is located in Seminole County, and the owner must be protected for certain reasons.
Yeah.
And the uniqueness about this property is it is actually zoned commercial zoning,
Interesting.
which is unique.
That is unique on that
That is
stretch of
funky.
road.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably historical, that's been there for quite a while.
Yeah, I know that the rest of the houses to the north that you can see in that photo, I know those were zoned commercial.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
As best we can?
Yeah, I guess my question then becomes, is it part of our concern for this matter, effectively that property, would we be stripping the property from the north building rights by allowing this setback? Because then those two buildings would be incredibly close with a five-foot setback. I mean, does that make sense? Like, I don't even know if that's even a subject for this board, but.
This, whoever would want to acquire that parcel would be coming to the existing condition with that setback.
Right.
So they would
Okay.
be informed.
Okay.
If I could just interject.
Please.
Lisa Borkert, Deputy County Attorney for the record. The building code has a required separation of structures for fire safety purposes. Don't quote me. I think it's like 3 feet or something like that. But I mean, if this is because it's first in time, so this applicant's coming in 5 feet away. If another applicant would come in, they would have to deal with, it would take into consideration this applicant structure that's on their property and it'd be looked at that time. But, 5 feet in more urban settings or on small lots, it's not an unusual side setback, but I don't think there's any concern. The concern that you raised, I don't think will be a concern in the future with the next person that comes in, based on the building code separation requirements.
Okay, so then just to kind of clarify that, even if there was a concern because they were here first,
That's
it's
right.
really irrelevant?
Right.
Beautiful, okay.
And I think to add to that, I mean, isn't that's why we post and notice these things, that if there is an
Absolutely.
aggrieved party, they can come before us and say something.
Okay,
Yes.
then I'm good.
Any other questions for staff? Is the applicant here? We've already gone through that. You said you didn't want to add anything, that's right. Having said that, though, does anybody need to have any questions for the applicant? Anyone here to speak in support? Anyone here to speak in opposition? Well, there we go. What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve, do we have a second?
Seconded.
We have a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, it's approved. Next.
Item number 7 is a variance request for 500 West Faith Terrace located in the Oakland Shores subdivision. The request is for an east side street setback reduction from 25 feet to 0 feet for a privacy fence in the RP zoning district. The subject property is a corner lot and has 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces West Faith Terrace. The Maitland Avenue side is where the variance is being sought. The request is to bring into compliance a 6-foot privacy fence entirely within the side street setback. The privacy fence is 11 feet from the sidewalk and 19 feet from the edge of pavement. Traffic engineering has no objection to the placement of the fence as it relates to site visibility. A code enforcement violation, number 24-39, was issued for this structure, resulting in the necessity of this variance. 4 letters of support were received from neighbors in the community. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for staff? I have one. Oh, go ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead, no, you go ahead.
The notice that they were given, code enforcement, the fence is already in place?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Ms. Payton, do you, the applicant is telling us that the fence was installed by the prior owner. Do we know for sure when that fence was erected?
It was my understanding that there was one there prior that, and then they replaced. That was my understanding, but you can clarify that with her.
Is the applicant here? Please come on up. Good thing you're organized. We were chatting about that before the meeting. If you could please give us your name and address for the record.
Correct. My name is Flor Rodriguez. Okay, my name is Flor Rodriguez. I am the owner of 500 West Fay Terrace. I have been the owner of the property for almost 3 years. I received the letters by February, letting me know that I was in violation, that the fence was in violation. The fence was placed by previous owner by 2020. All the letters was showing me pictures where you can see the dates by Google, the pictures that the city sent is showing the before and the after. The previous owner did all the renovations of the property. I bought the property in June 2021. So by October, I guess, I did an application to remove the trees that are in front of the garage to provide a little security to myself. I am a single woman that live alone in that property. So I was feeling a little, not secure in that property because it's a corner unit. So I wanted to put a fence, but somebody says, leave it like that because the trees are going to grow and you are going to have enough security. The trees that are in front of the garage, which right now they grow and are very strong and big, so I don't need a fence anymore. So then, 2 years after, I received the letters from the city requesting me, to be on place with the violation. So I came 2 days after to speak with the ladies in the front about that. So I moved the fence 2 feet and 2 inches because I read bad the notification. It was my mistake. So I contract somebody, I moved the fence, and somebody say, it's not 2 feet, ma'am, it's 25 feet. And I was actually in a little disconcern with myself and sad, like I'm going to lose half of my patio. So my property is residential, 1AA, that means that it's a professional office as well, but I had my homestead and I using the property as a residential property. Actually, my neighbors were very happy because the house was destroyed in the past. It was using as a storage. And now it's a very beautiful property. Those trees are from the city and are in front of the fence that are the problem right now. If the fence is removed, I'm going to lose my privacy, I'm going to lose my security, and it's going to be exposed for everybody who cross by. And basically everybody's going to have access to my property. Also, it's the only property in Maitland Avenue that is residential. My neighbor in this side is a property management, and in the other side is a lawyer office. So, yeah, this is basically what is going on. But this is.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you for your time, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Your pleasure, gentlemen.
Mr. Chair,
Sir,
move to approve.
we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do y'all want to, do you need to discuss this, or do y'all want to go ahead to the vote? Seeing how this is a little bit funky. All right, we'll go right to the vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, it passes. What's next?
Item number 8 is a variance request for 106 Fairway Drive located in the T and Green Estates subdivision. The request is for a front yard setback reduction from 25 feet to 17.8 feet for a front porch addition in the R1A zoning district. The request is to construct a 10-foot by 16-foot screened-in front porch addition, 7.2 feet into the front yard setback. It is unknown, there was a front porch there, and it's unknown when that was constructed. The house was constructed in 1960. I'm not sure if it was original to the house or what, but it was 17.8 feet from the front property line. This concludes my presentation. Bill, for any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Gentlemen, any questions for staff? Seeing none. Is the applicant here? Could you come on down, sir? I've got a question, the others might, but if you could give us your name and address, please.
106 Fairway Drive, Wayne Thomas.
Thank you, sir. Before we ask you questions, is there anything you'd like to add to what staff had said?
I bought the house in 2020. It was built in 1960. It had the front porch on it. The hurricanes sustained some damage, so I took it down because it was unsafe and wanted to bring it back up to code, and realized if I built it the way it was encroaching on the setback. So I wanted to see if I could put it back the way it was. If not, it's, I just have to go shorter.
Gentlemen, any questions?
My question was just answered.
Okay. Are you looking, I'm just asking this based on, all I know is what I saw looking at the photos. Are you just enclosing the existing concrete pad that's there?
Yeah, and the original house had like a 3-foot overhang at the front entry. And whoever lived there before, do-it-yourself, or built onto it and extended it out. And they poured concrete, it was only 1.5 inches thick. So I wanted to keep it in the same footprint, get rid of that and pour a proper foundation for it, and then just put a covered porch for now, maybe screen in the future.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, who's name?
You.
Me? Oh, I thought I saw in the drawings that you were adding onto the house itself. You're just gonna put the roof over the current pad with a new foundation.
Yes, sir. I'll get rid of the old pad that's there now
Yeah.
because it's not structurally
You're not
sound.
adding that to the house.
And just keep it all in the same footprint is what it was.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone here to speak in support? We do have someone. If you could share with us your name and address first, please.
My name is Michael Rice. I live at 112 Fairway Drive, due north of Mr. Thomas. I've resided there for approximately 11, 12 years. I've seen probably 3 families moving in and out that home there. The porch was there prior to me moving into my home. I know many of the people that live in the little horseshoe-shaped development there. I actually have a good friend that actually owned the second house built in that neighborhood. And majority of the houses had porches on them when they were built. They said this one didn't, but it was shortly thereafter, probably in the early 70s, that porch was built on there. I visited Mr. Thomas once and saw that porch was a life safety issue, and that's why he removed that porch. So I'd like to see him gain that porch back on the property.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Gentlemen, do you have any questions for this gentleman while he's here? Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak in support? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, your pleasure, gentlemen.
Move to approve.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Thank you all for your time. Last item.
Item number 9 is a variance request for 101 North Sunland Drive, located in the Sunland Estates subdivision. The request is for a front yard setback reduction from 25 feet to 20.5 feet for an addition in the R1A zoning district. The subject property is a corner lot and has 2 front yards for setback purposes. The front of the house faces Sunland Drive. The Cherokee Circle side is where the variance is being sought. The request is to build an addition and convert an existing carport into a 648-square-foot master bedroom and bathroom 4.5 feet into the front yard setback. 2 letters of support have been received from the adjacent property owners. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Gentlemen, any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
On the site plan, going engineering on you again. I'm not, the dimension that says 20, they say 20.9, I know ours says 20.5, but again, it's not perpendicular to the front line, so again, I always ask that question, how do you measure? Is it not the extension of the building to the property line?
From the closest point of the building to the closest property line.
Based on what direction? Closest line is going to be perpendicular. And the
That-
20.9 is not showing perpendicular to that line, so that's why I was just trying to figure out where the dimension came from.
That's the measurement that was provided, so I went with it.
All right. Any other questions? Heather, do you have a follow-up, or?
No, I'm in baffle mode trying to figure that out, so.
I was wondering if one of you engineers would ask about that measurement. Is the applicant here? There, we can get an answer to that question now. If you could share with us your name and address, please, sir.
My name is Marty Polakowski. My address is 267 Lakeview Drive, Sanford, Florida, 32773. You raise a really good question. The architects are the ones that actually did the dimension, and it is supposed to be measured perpendicular to the property line. And I think that is the dimension from perpendicular right at that corner. I don't
Yeah, I
have.
mean, it's close. Like I said, it just threw me because it said 20.9 and we're using a 20.5 measurement. I know it's 4/10 of an inch, or 4/10 of a foot, but I'm just trying to figure out
Right.
where the,
I went with that number, that's what was on the application.
okay. All right.
So I assume the property owner.
It's not going to make or break me tonight, so I just want to ask the question, so.
Anything else you want to share with us?
Thank you, sir.
No, just appreciate an approval.
Any other questions for the applicant? Mr. Kuhnsen, you're thinking.
Not exactly a question for the applicant, but I do have a concern that the applicant did say that according to his architect, that 20.9-foot distance is supposed to be perpendicular to the property line, but he just said he wasn't sure. My concern is that if we approve the 20.5 feet, it's not 100% clear that that 20.9 feet is perpendicular to the property line. I don't want to approve a distance that's going to be insufficient for the structure that's going to be on the property. I'm wondering if we shouldn't continue this to next month so the applicant's architect can have the opportunity to revise the site plan or so we can be certain that the
I mean,
distance
you
we're going
can-
to approve today is what's going to support the structure.
You
Good
can
que-
see on the site plan, I'm sorry to interrupt,
No,
but
please, yes.
you can see on the site plan that they drew a line where the setback line is, where the 25 feet is. Do you see that dotted line?
I don't, what page is that on?
It's on the site plan.
Page 188.
While Tom's looking that up, let me ask a question, and we'll loop back to this. Does staff have any discretion, to look at an as-built and see something as kind of a de minimis and approve it?
Not if it's beyond what is approved for the variance. So
Gotcha.
if the variance was approved at 20 and a half feet, which I'm assuming is why the applicant requested 20 instead of 20.9, to give them a couple inches. If it's more than that, the staff cannot approve it. They would have to come back for the variance. But if you look at the drawing, like I was saying on the site plan, you can see that it minimally, there's only a tiny corner of it that encroaches into that front 25-foot setback.
I might be able to help you with this. If the setback is 20.5 feet from the front yard, that is closer to the street than the 20.9 that's dimensioned. So the building footprint would have to grow to get to 20.5.
Engineers, does that make sense?
Board, if I may, my name is Megan Sonorsky. I'm a project coordinator.
Yes,
I do the
please.
residential permit review for all of these projects that come in. So usually I'm the person that's advising our lovely applicants that they need a variance in the first place when they come in, because usually they've submitted a building permit and I see that there's a discrepancy. I will tell, because we've had a couple of situations arise where they've gotten a variance and they're off by inches because of a form board that's off on a foundation. So I will typically advise our applicants to give themselves a little bit of a grace. So if it says 20.9 on their site plan, I will advise them to ask for a few extra inches and go for the 20.5, so that when they go for their final inspection, that if their contractor is off by a few inches when they're forming that foundation, they don't fail, because things happen in the field. And I would hate for our applicants to have to come back in for another variance because their contractor was off an inch here and an inch there, and it failed our applicants in the field, not because of anything they did or anything their engineers did on their site plan, but because of accidents in the field. So I typically, if they're on a whole foot or a half foot, I will tend to tell them to ask for just a slight bit more on the inches, just to give themselves a cushion so they don't fail on their final inspection, because we have had it happen.
And that honestly is what I was concerned about.
But it sounds like, well, let's get to, once we finish the public input part, and then we can have a further discussion.
If I might add, at 20.5 feet, we have that cushion from what the building dimension is shown on the drawing. Okay, there's 4/10 of a foot difference. The building, what's dimensioned on the plan is 4/10 of a foot into the lot. And we're not asking for 20.9 feet, we're asking for 20.5 feet to the setback line.
Larry, you got a question?
Yeah, while he's still here, on that site plan, there's a dimension that looks like it's coming from the corner of the driveway at the residence, 23.6. What is that, what's that dimension to?
The existing carport, excuse me.
So the existing residence already encroaches then?
It appears so.
Should we deal with that too?
No.
No, considering this house was constructed a long time ago.
Okay. No, I'm just asking a question.
But I mean, the entire structure is part of the request, including that carport, because they're converting that carport as well.
Okay, just want to make sure that that wasn't, being enclosed and also is an encroachment, that's all.
It is being enclosed, it's part of the addition.
Since it's already in place,
Right.
we don't.
But I guess the proposed bedroom encroaches more. So is that why, yeah.
Well, excuse me, Nathan Borger, for the record, the request is for the addition, and the addition area showed in the proposed bedroom, the lined area, and that includes the roof carport, because that will be enclosed. So the 20.5 setback would apply to that also.
Correct. I
Yes.
understood that part. I didn't understand whether that dimension was, because I'm assuming that the crosshatched area is the proposed addition. I wasn't sure if that structure for the roof was staying or not, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Thank you, sir, for your time. Anyone here to speak in support of the applicant? Anyone here to speak in opposition? Seeing none, we'll close the floor. Your pleasure, gentlemen.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. You're approved. Enjoy. All right, let's move on to the minutes. Actually, I've read them. Anyone else read them? Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve as is.
Second?
Second.
We have a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Unanimous. Anything else y'all would like to chat about?
There's two sets of minutes, for
That's right,
February
there-
and March.
You are right. Thank you for reminding me.
So can we clarify which one that was approved for?
Tom, we've done amend your motion to include both?
I would like to amend my motion to include both sets of minutes.
We have a second on that. All right.
Second.
All those vote in favor?
Aye again.
Those opposed? All right, unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all. And to our staff.